Hey guys, so I'm just on my way to the casino near downtown Montreal. So for this vlog, I want to talk about just like my poker career so far, and kind of how it started and where I'm at now. Also in general, so for this vlog, like I was thinking how I'm trying to make the videos and keep them under 20 minutes. I've been making them between 10 to 20 minutes, but then I've also been thinking like this vlog essentially it's for me, right? So it's like a video journal. Just talking about what's on my mind. And I was kind of thinking about, maybe I should just, essentially just talk for as long as I want to talk, and whatever. If people want to watch it, they want to watch it. But I feel like I shouldn't really care too much about the views. It should just be something for me. And yeah, and like I enjoy talking. It's kind of nice, like therapeutic, I guess, to just like talk about what's on my mind as I drive to work. And then yeah, I guess if people want to watch it, good for them. If not, good, whatever. It makes no difference, right? But whatever, I don't know, I can't really see myself talking for that much more than 20 minutes anyway. But, so anyways, for this vlog, I wanted to talk about my poker career so far. So I started playing poker when I was 15 years old. So what happened, was pretty funny actually, was I have three brothers, and at the time when I was 14, my brothers were 12, 16, and 18. And my brother, who was 12 years old, won a tournament online, right? So he was 12 years old, he won a tournament online. I think he won around $3,000, and he withdrew most of the money. So he got a check in the mail for about $3,000, and my parents saw it, right? So I saw a check in the mail come from my 12-year-old brother for $3,000, and they're just like, well, what's this $3,000, right? Like, it didn't say where it was from. It didn't say like online poker or anything, right? The check probably just like Bank of Vancouver or something like that, right? So I checked for $3,000 from the Bank of Vancouver, and they're just like, what is this? And then he's like, oh, I won it playing, he won it online. They're like, what do you mean you won it online? He's like, oh, I played a poker tournament and I won. And they didn't understand. They're like, I understand, how could you, play a poker tournament online and win $3,000? Like, didn't you have to put up some money first? And he's like, no, well, there were some free rolls, and I played a bunch of free rolls, and eventually I got like a $10 ticket. And then, I put the ticket into the tournament, and then I won the tournament, so I got $3,000. So they were pretty shocked by it. And then I remember both my parents, I guess, they started really looking into poker and gambling. And I remember my father was saying how, gambling can be more addictive than drugs, and it can really ruin people and households. And essentially the conclusion they came to was gambling is like a terrible idea. So then what they tried to do is they tried to just like block poker like in our house and like block it on the internet, So I guess they were okay with us like playing cards with friends. We have some friends over, we'd have a set of chips, and we'd play poker with friends for $5. That I guess they were okay with, but they really hated the idea of online poker and internet gambling, so they tried to block it. And so what they ended up doing actually is I think they literally just blocked the word poker from like search engines, so you couldn't search anything about poker. But as long as you like had downloaded Poker Stars or Party Poker or Full Tilt or whatever onto your computer, you could still play. So they didn't really do anything, they just made it kind of annoying because you'd be playing online, and if you wanted to look up some poker statistic or something, then you probably couldn't do it. But I think I remember my brother found, I remember then we had like proxies too, so we were still able to do it because we downloaded those like proxies, which, let you overcome those blockers for those websites. But anyways, the whole thing was pretty dumb. So yeah, so my brothers were playing. I was 14 at the time. I hadn't started playing yet, and then I remember I was really into I had girlfriends, and I was really dating girls, and was in the whole being a 14-year-old, having a ton of fun with girls in high school. And then when I was 15, I had my first real girlfriend, and then I remember she broke up with me, and I was pretty mad about it. And then because I was like mad about that kind of got me into poker, because I was like, all right, my brother's always playing poker, let me like get in on this, I was like, let's try this poker thing out. So we played poker, and I remember the first time we played, it was like all four of us were playing, and I was like sure I was gonna win, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna be like better than them at poker. But I mean, they had all been playing for about a year, and I'd never really played before, and then I quickly learned that I really had like no chance, and they would just beat me really easily. And I guess I was pretty shocked at how easily they beat me. But I mean, obviously they knew what they were doing, and I didn't. They knew, the odds behind the hands. They knew, how to form your, how to bet your chips. When to go all in, when to fold, all those things. And I really didn't know what I was doing. But eventually I learned, and then I got good at it. And I remember that summer I was playing poker with my brothers the whole time, getting better. They taught me. I remember my youngest brother taught me a lot in terms of just like how to play properly, and what was a good hand, what was a bad hand. Not to play hands like 8-4 suited and stuff like that, right? you know, obviously ace king's good and whatever. 5-3's bad, like simple stuff, but whatever. So anyways, that's when I was playing, and then the next year I came to school, and I was in grade 11, I was 15, and I kind of just like introduced poker to all my friends. And that time too, there was the poker boom, so poker really started getting popular. And because I had been, you know, practicing also with my brothers, by the time I got to school to play poker with all my friends, they were all new at it, I was like the best player. So then I started pretty consistently winning off my friends. And I remember for the whole year, or when the year was over, I was up around $2,000 from just playing poker with my friends for like $5 at a time or $20 at a time. Like I was really just winning very consistently. I remember I got really into it too. I remember actually also in high school, I forget the reason, like, so I wasn't in math, I didn't have math for some reason. So I was like in math class and I was doing really bad and I was gonna like mess up my averages to get into CGEP. But the math class I was in, I didn't need for, because I was in like some advanced math class that I didn't need for CGEP anyways. I didn't really want to go into anything math oriented. I was more interested in the arts and whatever. Or what was it? Social sciences, right? So there was a period at school every day where I had nothing to do. So it was essentially like a study hour. So I remember every day at school during that study hour, I would just read poker books. And it was pretty hilarious. So just every day, I remember the first book I read, which I thought really helped, was The Theory of Poker by David Sklansky. And then I was reading Doyle Brunson's Super System. I was reading Carol's Book of Tells. Those are the three that really I remember reading, or rereading, or maybe rereading. I'm sure I read a bunch of other poker books too. I remember I enjoyed also the Stewie Ungar autobiography. I really liked the Amarillo Slim autobiography. But anyways, yeah, I spent most of that time just reading about poker and learning. And then, but then I eventually started doing well online too. So I had, like I said, I'd made $2,000 from playing poker against my friends. I remember I put $50 online, and I put $50 online, and I was first playing $6 sit and goes. So it'd be like a 9-handed tournament. It was like a tournament where it's just 9 people to start, and top 3 people make money. So I played these $6 sit and goes. You know, first place usually got about 4.5 times your money, maybe. Yeah, that's right. So it went 50% to first, 30% to second, 20% to third. So top 3 made money, and I came first, you know, a lot. Or actually, I remember too, I downloaded SharkScope, and then eventually I got really good at those sit and goes. And I was playing, I remember the one I used to play the most was the $200, it was a $200 buy-in, and it was 10-handed, with top 3 making money. And I remember I was really aggressive too. I remember too, I had SharkScope, which is the site that lets you kind of see stats on everyone. I remember looking at the stats of other pros, and pretty much most pros, they came every spot equally, 1 through 7, and they pretty much never came 8, 9, or 10. So would they come like, you know, 8, 9, 10 very rarely, and they were pretty much even 1 through 7, which essentially that's where the profit comes from, because they never came 8, 9, or 10. Whereas me, I would come 10th and 9th a lot, but I would come first the most by far. So my strategy was to really just go for a chip lead and build a chip lead, and then put pressure on the stacks, you know, trying to make the money. And yeah, it worked pretty well. I definitely had one of the higher win rates for sure. And I'm trying to think how much money I made. Trying to think how much money I made in sit and goes. I must have made around 50 grand or 40 grand playing online sit and goes. And yeah, it was a fun time. They don't really exist anymore, those tournaments. I remember you said it was a 10-handed tournament, or sometimes it was 9-handed. It was a $200 buy-in. It would take like 45 minutes, and they would just go all the time. And I don't even think those go anymore. I know they have hyper turbo sit and goes and stuff like that. But anyways, I remember when I was 19, I also before I get into that, so I remember when I was 16, there was poker was really popular in Montreal, and they had those legal poker clubs, but they had a place that was legal. It was called Elgi Melgi, and it was like a pool bar, and they were hosting poker tournaments every night, and they would literally get like 80 to 100 people every night showing up with $60 to play a tournament. So you'd say you have 100 people, put up $60, and first place, you know, I think it was like the top 9 got paid, and first place usually got around 1,000 to like 1,400. And I remember when I was 16, I won one for $1,200. And I remember I was using my brother. You had to be 18 to be there, but I had a brother who a lot of people like pretty much thought we were twins because we looked so much alike, and I would just use my brother's ID, so they thought I was 18. And I won a tournament there for $1,200 when I was 16, so I remember that was pretty awesome feeling. I remember too, I came second a few times, and like maybe I came fourth a few times. I know I made good money there. And yeah, so anyways, back to the Sit and Goes thing. So I was 19, I was playing Sit and Goes online. And then I remember my friend was telling me how there really wasn't like a long-term like future in like Sit and Goes. Who was saying how like, you know, you're gonna go to Vegas, you know, people are gonna be playing cash games where they buy in for 10 grand and you're gonna want to play a Sit and Go for $200. I mean, he was right, because if you do go to Vegas, you go wherever, you go to casinos, Sit and Goes aren't like a thing. People don't play Sit and Goes. It's either tournaments, which are like thousands of people and take many days, or where hundreds of thousands of people and takes many days, or it's cash tables where you cash in, cash out. So at that time, that's when I started getting really into cash games. So I was playing cash games online. I remember I was playing nine-handed, mostly, mostly 1-2. So I have like 4 table, 9-handed, 1-2, whatever, I did well. I remember I had one summer actually, where I was 20 years old, and all my friends were 21, so they were off to Vegas for the summer, and I was too young to go. So I stayed home, and I was living in an apartment downtown, and it was a pretty good time. I was with a bunch of friends. Actually, it was with because I was in Halifax for university. So I was downtown in Montreal, because my parents, okay, sorry, let me restart this story. So, I was downtown in university. I was in Halifax in university, and then for the summer I came back to stay at home for 3 months. My parents said, you know, you can't stay here, either get a job or go to school. And I'm like, I'm in school. And they're like, well, you're not doing school right now. I'm like, yeah, because I have like my semester off, like to take summer courses. I'm like, no, why don't you play poker? And they're like, no, you have to get a job if you want to live here. So I said to my friend what my parents were saying, and then he was saying, you know, my girlfriend, she's doing a sublet for the summer, why don't you go stay at her place? So I ended up staying at my friend's girlfriend's apartment downtown. It was like me and 3 girls, which was pretty funny time. So it's just me, 3 girls just living in an apartment downtown, and I was just playing poker on my laptop, mostly 4 tabling, 1-2, 9 max, and then I was going to the casino as well. And yeah, it was a pretty good time. So anyway, then next summer I was 21, and then I got to go to Vegas for the summer, which was awesome. I loved it. And then I started going to Vegas every summer for the next few years, going for around 6 weeks at a time. And it was great. I was staying in the Bellagio. All my friends were there. Everyone was playing poker. It was like an awesome time. I'm just stuck in traffic right now. I just need to turn off the street because it's going to be a while. 1 second. So then I was going to Vegas every summer. It's a good time. And I was playing poker online. I was in Halifax in university, and there was actually a casino downtown Halifax. That was pretty perfect for me too. The game was actually pretty good. And it's funny too, actually, I remember that game. It was like a regular game. They had the Halifax casino. It was like, you know, the high stakes game or whatever. It was like 2-5, and they had Hold'em and Omaha depending on the day. And I remember, I think like 4 other guys from that game became like serious pros. Like they all became like full-time pros. I know some of them did well, like one of them did really well in the main event one year. And yeah, they all just became like top pros, I think. So I think it's pretty hilarious, because in poker, especially when I was younger, you had so many people who were playing poker, and then eventually it got to that point where they quit poker and they went and got a job. So I was one of the few people that never went and got a job. Same with my younger brother. He just plays online full time. And I just continued poker. And I remember, so the big moment for me in poker was when I was 23 and I graduated university. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to take a year off to just like play poker full time. And I remember people telling me that, you know, once you play poker full time, it's like a very different experience. It's not the same. It's just like playing it on the side while you're in school, you know, because at this point I was probably playing poker about 500 hours a year. So they're saying going playing 500 hours a year to playing maybe 2,000, it's going to be a very different experience. So anyways, my first year as a full-time poker player, I think I played around 1,500 hours, and I really loved it. I thought it was awesome. I ran good, which was nice. And I remember that too, actually, when I finished university, I had about 40 grand saved up from poker. And, you know, it was pretty sweet too, because, you know, when I was in university, I really didn't really have any expenses. My parents were helping pay for my college, for my dorm, I remember I had an apartment in university, and I was splitting the rent with my parents, so that was nice. And they were also helping me just like pay for food. Just like while I was in school, my parents were, you know, helping me out a lot with money. So pretty much, I mean, I didn't have a car, I didn't have any expenses like that. And yeah, for the most part, my expenses were very low. The only thing I had to pay for was Vegas. That was all on my own, where I had to like pay for my, you know, stays at the Bellagio and stuff like that. But for the most part, I had a lot of help in terms of just expenses. So it was awesome. It was an easy way to save up a lot of money. So I had 40 grand by the time I finished university, but now at this point my parents aren't giving me any money, so now I'm completely on my own. So I finished university, I had 40 grand saved up, and then I moved downtown Montreal, and I found an apartment that was actually pretty cheap. I found like a small cheap apartment because my plan was to go to Vegas a lot. So I was spending 4 months of the year in Vegas, 8 months of the year in Montreal. And when I was in Vegas, I was staying at Vdara, which is like one of the best hotels, a nice hotel, pretty fancy. And I mean, yeah, that was like a pretty awesome time in my life for sure. I mean, obviously life is good, but no matter what, life is good, but you kind of realize how you go through like different stages, right? So at that point in my life, I had all my money in cash. I didn't have a girlfriend. I was going to Vegas 4 months of the year. I would literally show up with like 40K in cash or 50K in cash to Vegas. I remember there was one time I came back on the plane. I think I went to Vegas with like 25K in cash, and I came back on the plane with almost 80K in cash after 4 weeks there. I remember that was January 2014 when I went on a huge heater. I made like 60K in 4 weeks, and that was pretty awesome. But anyway, so yeah, I was going to Vegas a lot. I was having a good time. Poker was great. My work ethic was probably not the best in terms of, I feel like I just like had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I spent a lot of money. I had a good time. I made a lot of money too, though. But like even just, I remember like that for example, that year, I remember I made 60K in January in Vegas, and I broke even the whole rest of the year. I was just playing a lot of online, breaking even. I played a bunch in the Montreal casino. Didn't really take it serious, considering it was lower stakes than Vegas. I played a bunch of tournaments, didn't do well in any. I remember that when I was 22, 24, 25, I played the main event. So I played the main event 3 times in Vegas, a 10K buy-in. I went 0 for 3, which sucks because that's 30 grand. And that was another thing too with my whole mentality in poker, is I never did any staking or backing or swapping action or anything like that. So when I played poker, it was always just 100% my money. I never dealt with lending people. I remember people used to always say to me like, oh, can you like lend me some money? And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like, oh, it's like really standard in like poker to lend each other money. I'm like, look, I never ask anyone to lend me money. Like I'm never asking people to lend me money, and I never lend money to anyone else. So it's just always my money, 100% my action. Even, in terms of all-ins, I always would run it once, never ran it twice. Literally my whole life, I've never ran it twice except for those one time where I was in a pot against my brother. And because it was my brother, they actually had the option of running it 3 times, so we agreed to run it 3 times, but it actually made no difference because my brother won all 3. So essentially my whole life, I always ran it once. Online, I've tried running it twice sometimes, but I really don't like it. I think running it twice is one of those things that is just like bad. Like, you always hear that those expressions like, is this good for poker, bad for poker? And you go, well, I always think it's dumb when you hear things like that, like, is this good for poker, bad for poker? But I know for running it twice, I've always thought that's just bad for poker. I remember actually party poker at one point, I think when COVID first started, they didn't even have running it twice. You were forced to run it once all the time, and it was just really good. I mean, stacks got big at the tables, people got tilted. It was so much better for grinding to just have it only running it once. It's just better for poker. I mean, a big part of poker, it's like that, that Tyson quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched. So it's like a big part of poker. It's like everyone has a plan until they get bad beat. That's like the kind of the way to think about it. So it's like you go to poker and whatever, you're playing, you're doing well, and then all of a sudden, often you're getting, especially if it's like whatever it is, Omaha Hold'em, often you get in some kind of cooler situation. Maybe it's 50-50 where you're kind of just forced to both put all the chips in, right? Remember I was in Vegas once. It was a 5-10 game where these 2 nitty guys were playing pretty nitty, and they got in some situation where the board just came like 9-8-4 with like 9-8 of hearts, and the guy had Jack 10 of hearts, and the other guy had pocket 9s. So, just all the money's gonna just get in regardless, right? And watching that, and they wanted to run it twice, and the dealer said to them, or the floor said to them, this was a few years ago, but at the time they had a rule, you could only run it twice if the pot was at least 5K. And the pot was only 3K because it was 5-10. And they're like, oh, we want to run it twice. And they're like, no, the pot has to be at least 5K. So they forced them to run it once. I forget who won it. I think the guy with pocket 9s won it. And the guy with the Jack 10 hearts ended up leaving, I think. But it just shows, like, that's the point of poker. It's all about, how you respond to, like, the luck factor, right? So the guy, and not only that, I mean, look, the guy who loses, now he has to respond. I mean, he had to respond by leaving because he was all upset. But the guy who wins, now he kind of has to react to having a big stack, right? So now how's he going to play his big stack? Like, you don't want to be too conservative because you have a big stack, and now maybe you're going to win more money because you can be more intimidating, or you can, you know, people see you with a lot of chips and they fear you more. Maybe you can get away with more bluffs or whatever it is, right? So I think it's really cool to just, I've always thought it's really cool, the idea of always running it once and just kind of just seeing how cards fall that day and just going from there. So yeah, it's something I've always done. And the other main thing too, I believe, is like, if I run it once and I lose, I'm gonna be upset, but you know, hopefully I'll still play well. But I feel like my opponents, if they lose, they're gonna be more upset than if I had lost. So the whole point is you need to have better tilt control than your opponent. So if you feel like when you lose, you're gonna not tilt too much, whereas when your opponent loses, he will, then, you know, long term, you're definitely gonna have the edge running it once. So anyways, so back to where I'm at now. So now I was playing poker full time, and then I met my wife March 2014. Well, you know, she's my girlfriend. We were dating, and eventually she became my girlfriend. And that was an awesome time. I mean, we were downtown. I was downtown Montreal. She was living at home with her parents. And she would, you know, come visit me. And then I think after a year, she like moved in with me. But it was like kind of back. She would like live with me, but also, you know, stay at her parents too. So it was like 50-50 living at my place and her parents' place. And yeah, that was just like a great time. And I was going to Vegas too. I was still going to Vegas about 4 months of the year or 3 months of the year. And yeah, it was a pretty good time. And then, you know, just as I remember, I think when I was 28 is when I got into investing. So I remember I put away 20 grand into investment, into like into stocks, like a stock, what do you call it, stock trading site. I put 20 grand, I bought a bunch of stocks, and my father kind of helped me out and explain it. And then I learned a lot about it too. I remember I was watching a ton of YouTube stuff. I was watching like Warren Buffett videos on, you know, stocks for whatever, what his best advice was. I was watching all those things, stocks for beginners. I remember I just learned so much about stocks. Anyways, one thing actually I do want to say is, in terms of like what's like my investment strategy is like, so I used to have a lot of stocks and everything, and then at one point I got Bitcoin and it did pretty well. But at this point, my investment strategy is, which I don't know if I'll ever change it. But so right now my investment strategy is, and it's been like that for the past few years, is to put 1/3 of my money in the S&P 500, which is like a stock fund that is the top 500 stock companies in the world, right? So things like, you know, Apple, McDonald's, whatever. So I put 1/3 of my money in the S&P 500. I put 1/3 of my money in gold, physical gold, and then I put 1/3 of my money in Bitcoin. So I just have 1/3 in stocks, S&P 500, 1/3 in gold, physical gold, and 1/3 in Bitcoin. And yeah, like that seems to be working for me. And I don't think I'm gonna change that strategy anytime soon. It's pretty simple, it's pretty safe. And look, obviously gold feels very safe, Bitcoin's pretty risky, stocks are kind of in the middle. And the S&P 500 also pays dividends, so that's nice. But yeah, so that's like where my investments are. And I try to just keep doing that. I mean, sometimes I have to sell investments if I need money, but you know, every year I try to put a little bit more into gold, stocks, and Bitcoin. So anyways, back to poker. So then me and my wife, we ended up getting a new apartment in Westmount, which is like a really nice area in Montreal. We got like kind of more of like got an apartment built, like because we're living downtown in like a student area with all like the university students. So then we moved, you know, it was all loud and obnoxious and everyone's drunk all the time or whatever, partying, right? So we went from living there. It was a lot of fun, obviously, but we kind of grew out of it. At this point, I guess at this point I was probably 30 and my wife was 23. So we were ready to, you know, be more mature. So we moved to actually I'm trying to think how old we were. I may have been 28 and my girlfriend, so my wife girlfriend at the time, was 21. And we moved to Westmount, Lower Westmount in Montreal in a nice building. And it was a very nice building. It was like quiet. There was like a lot of old people living there. It was very like, you know, adult kind of like apartments. So yeah, that was actually, I love, that was my favorite place in terms of where to live. Because we had like, it was like my dream apartment. It was like a 4.5. So it was a nice place, really nice area, really quiet. We had like me and my wife's bedroom was really big, and then the other bedroom I just used as an office for online poker. And then the living room was really nice, kitchen was nice. So yeah, that was actually my dream apartment. I really loved it, and I really didn't want to leave. So even now, when me and my wife, we had our first kid there, my son was there until he was about, I guess, 10 months old. We were living in that apartment with just my son, who was 10 months, and my wife's dog. And yeah, I didn't want to move, but obviously I guess we had to, and especially because we want more kids, and now we have 2 kids, so we eventually moved to a house. But yeah, I mean, being perfectly honest, I definitely prefer living in an apartment over a house. I think houses are more for women and apartments seem more for guys. But me and my wife did say that the goal or the plan is to live in our house for 30 years and then move back to an apartment. So we moved into the house when I was, I guess, 34. So yeah, we'll live there from 34 until I'm 64. And then we'll sell the house and go back to living in an apartment. That's the plan, at least. Anyway, so what else? Yeah, now I've been playing poker. Well, I guess another big thing with poker was when COVID happened. So I used to be playing poker. It was pretty much like 80 to 90% live and like 10 to 20% online. But actually, the year before COVID, for the first time, I had a losing year live. So I'd never had a losing year live in poker. And during that year, I was just running so terrible live that I started just playing a lot online. And for whatever reason, I started running amazing online. So I remember for that year, I think I lost like maybe 20K live and I made like 60K online. So I had a big year online, and then COVID happens, and I had to do full-time online. And then during COVID, I ran pretty well, but the games were really good during COVID. That was like another mini like poker boom or something. Remember, I even won a tournament during COVID. I remember there was like a turbo tournament. It was like 7,000 people, $20. I won it, and I got like 22 grand for winning it. And it took like 5 hours, or not even 4 hours. So in like 4 hours, I put in $20 and won 22 grand. I remember that was awesome too, because my wife, she woke up that day, went to work. She's a nurse. She went to work. She's there for like 8 hours, and by the time she got home, I'd already won the tournament. So I literally went on a date to like the view atop of the mountain in Montreal. She loves going there. And we were in a car, and then I showed her a picture on my phone of like a screenshot of my cashier, and I was like, "Baby, look, I won a tournament." And then I showed her the screenshot of my cashier to show like the 22 grand I just won, and she was like so happy. Yeah, it was an awesome time too. Great memory. So anyways, and then COVID ended. I went back to playing live, and at this point, pretty much since COVID's ended, I've been pretty 50-50 live and online. And then also, I was going to Vegas, but since like getting married and having kids, I've only pretty much been going to Vegas for like once or twice a year for like a total of 2 weeks to a month. So yeah, I haven't really been going to Vegas as much. I haven't gone since last year. Last year I made a big boxing bet. And yeah, so I used to handicap boxing too, and I thought I was pretty good at it, or I did whatever. I was up 20 grand at one point, and I got off to a pretty good start. A lot of it was from Floyd Mayweather though. But yeah, I went to Vegas and I bet like 5 grand on Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia's fight to go over 7.5 rounds. I thought it was a great bet. And then it literally, I'm trying to think, I guess it was round 7. Yeah, so in round 7, Garcia got knocked out. But it was almost worse than that. He took a huge body shot, and then he took a knee because the body shot was so big, and he just like took a knee, and essentially he quit because once the ref counted to 10, he then got right back up. So he could have got up at 9 if like, someone held a gun to his head. But I mean, he was really like dehydrated, and there was he had to cut too much weight to make that fight. And in hindsight, I mean, obviously it sucks because I lost like at the last second. I was like 3 minutes away from winning my bet, but in hindsight, it was a bad bet. I mean, a few things. One is there was too much of a weight. He had to drop too much weight to make that fight with the rehydration clause and everything. And then also, I mean, I thought the moment kind of got to him because I thought the way he acted in that fight, it seemed like he let the pressure get to him and he was being very over-aggressive. And, when someone fights very over-aggressively, often either they're going to knock their opponent out or it's going to lead to them getting themselves knocked out, which is what happened. So yeah, unfortunately it was a bad bet. I still almost won it though, and I bet 5K to win around 5K. So it's too bad. Actually I haven't been back to Vegas since then, but I've been grinding Montreal. I do plan on going back to Vegas soon. Hopefully I'll go to Vegas in the fall this year. But anyways, yeah, right now I've been grinding about half online, half live the past few years. But, this year I've been doing about 80% online, 20% live. So that figure is always kind of going back and forth. I mean, when I was younger, I used to do about 80 to 90% live, 10 to 20% online. Right now, it's kind of the opposite. But usually, I think an ideal situation for me, like just thinking about it, would probably be, I think the best ideal situation would be to do 60% the ideal situation for me would probably be to do 60% online and 40% live. So we'll see. I mean, I'll see how things go. Today's Wednesday. I'm going to the casino, and my plan going forward is to try and start going Wednesday and Friday. So every Wednesday and Friday, go to the casino, and then throughout the week, play online. Online is nice because you don't have to play for that long. So sometimes I would just do an hour in the morning, or 3 hours in the morning, or whatever it is, right? Or maybe an hour before the kids wake up on a Saturday or Sunday or something like that, right? Or an hour at night randomly. But so right now my goal or plan is to play about 60% online, 40% live, and hopefully I can keep doing well. And also I've been Ubering, right? So try and do whatever. Let's just try and think of these numbers then. So maybe we do 40% online, 30% live, and maybe 30% Uber, maybe something like that. But anyway, all right, so I guess that's probably all for now. I guess I've been talking for quite some time. I see on my phone it's been over 30 minutes. That's a long video. Yeah, I guess that's all. I mean, poker's been pretty good. It's interesting to think. I've been playing poker. So I've been playing poker for almost 21 years now. I remember when I was 15, I really fell in love with poker, right? If you want to use that expression. I remember really kind of falling in love with poker. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm 15. I would like to play poker for the next 60 years until I'm 75, and I want to have 60 winning years in a row. That was my goal. And so I was 15, I'm 36, so I've had 21 winning years in a row, if you combine live and online together. I've had 21 winning years in a row. So yeah, hopefully things can keep going well. Hopefully I can run good today. One thing also I've just noticed, I know it's just luck and variance, but throughout my poker career I've always ran pretty good on Wednesdays, and today's a Wednesday, so hopefully I can get lucky today. I mean, it's not like Wednesday's necessarily the best day to grind. The best day is probably Friday or Saturday. But yeah, for whatever reason, I know I've had my biggest winning days for some reason always been on Wednesdays. So yeah, hopefully I can get lucky today. All right, guys, that's all for now. Have a good day. See you guys.